Guys, I'm sure back another video. Today's video is why Tyra and Lightning swap seasons. So, episode 2 of Lightning jumps, and I think the Killer Bass still lose because Tyra didn't affect the challenge. And Ezekiel would still say it's common. Episode 3, I think like Eva and Lightning would be pretty good friends. Now, Heather would sabotage Eva still, if not even more so, considering the fact they have two powerful players. So there's still not. Now, I think in the end, Lightning would actually win the challenge here. As Lightning literally has protein powder and literally can keep up with Joe of all people. He's a 5-foot marine jog. So I think Lightning wins the challenge. Now, Duncan would add Lightning in his group to and Eva, I think. And I think Heather would get everyone to vote Owen because he did the worst in the challenge. And I think Heather would want Justin out because he cheated, and I think Heather was able to pull off 2 episodes later in the original. So I see no reason why Heather couldn't pull the same thing. I forgot Beth. What's Beth? Beth. Oh, that's Beth. Damn it. I was supposed to do that. Episode 4 is Dodgeball. I know if you're such as compete, Lightning would do awesome with Eva, so the Killbats would do even better, which means Duncan and Harold still win the challenge. On top of the fact they have Lightning, who I imagine would have some strategy in this game. And they vote Noah. So 5, the talent show. I think it's Heather, Trent, and now Owen who complete the challenge. And Bridget, Courtney, and Jeff. Of course, Bridget pukes everyone. Harold's doing the challenge. Lightning gets annoyed at Harold. I feel like Eva's also annoyed at Harold. I think Heather can convince Beth, Lindsay, Izzy, and Owen. Cody votes for Trent. Now, Heather still has majority. And I think Heather would want Owen out, but Heather can't save herself anymore without Justin be her human shield. She can get Beth and Lindsay and maybe Izzy, but the other 5 are. But the other 5 would definitely, even though Cody vote for Trent, the 5 would vote for Heather. Would get Cody to vote Trent, but the other 5 would definitely vote for Heather, considering that Trent would have as a big target on his back. Episode 6 is the Sucky Outdoors, in case they still got lost. Eva and Lightning would actually bond with Duncan and the others. And I think Lightning and Eva would be pretty good friends here. And Harold still is Harold. Katie gets voted off. Episode 7's Phobia Factor. I think Izzy and Owen pass. Shauna fails. Trent passes and Gwen. Beth and Lindsay pass. Cody fails. Harold fails and Bridget. Courtney fails. Jeff passes. I think Duncan passes. Eva passes Worms. Sadie passes and DJ. Jeff fails. Now, whatever Lightning Sphere is, I'm pretty sure he could pass it, as I think Lightning's too egotistical and too focused on the game not to pass his sphere, so I think he's able to pass. And I think everyone targets Courtney, who calls him the challenge here, as I think Courtney personally would have been going home, as Tyler's not here for a human shield. There's no reason for Courtney to stay around. To date, yeah, up the creek. Bridget, Sadie, Jeff, DJ, Lightning Eva, which leaves Duncan and Harold. Trent and Gwen, Beth, Lindsay, Owen, Cody, and Izzy, and Lashana. Lashana still gets chased down by CRMP. She still gives an idea, and Lightning or Eva pushes back 13. Episode 9, Paintball Deer Hunter. Cody wouldn't get mauled by a bear because there's no Heather. So he just replaces Heather. Cody's a deer. And I think DJ still wins the challenge. And Lightning's a deer hunter, and I think Eva's a deer. Now, Trent and Cody would make up at this point, so they would go with Gwen. And I feel like Cody and Owen vote Beth, not knowing she has the cursed statue. And I think Owen did terrible in this challenge. So they vote Beth. These two vote, I think they all vote Beth here, as Beth has the cursed statue. And without Heather holding her back, I think she'd reveal it, so she gets voted off. Episode 10, the Gophers is the challenge, and Owen gets voted off for eating the ribs. As without Beth here, Owen goes. Episode 11, Who You Can Trust. Gwen Lashana, Duncan DJ, Bridget Jeff, Lindsay Trent gets Infirmary, Sadie Eva, Duncan DJ, Cody and Gwen. Eva, Sadie, Lashana, Cody. Lenny Carroll, Gwen and Lindsay. I think Gwen gets in the Infirmary. And then Jeff still loses DJ's money, so it's DJ and Jeff. Sean and Lindsay. I think DJ still has his mask. And I think Lightning and Eva vote DJ. Harold is convinced to vote DJ. Sadie votes DJ. And I think they would have convinced Bridget to vote for DJ, as she doesn't like Duncan's bullying, and I think they would realise that DJ, Jeff, and Duncan and DJ did cost them the challenge today, so I think they vote off DJ. Episode 12, Basics Training. I think Lightning and Eva would get to the final round, and I think Lightning would win the challenge here. And I think the 3 vote Lindsay. Episode 12, 13, Extra Torture. I think the winner of the challenge, Trent, Lightning, I think Trent, Eva, Lashana, and then Cody is skiing, and Harold. Now with Harold crashing into a rock, there's no reason for the killer has to wipe out, so they win the challenge. And Gwen Lashana would be friends with Cody and Trent vote Lashana. And now at the merge. Alright, so Eva's here. And we need to bring back Izzy. And instead of Izzy, we'll bring back Noah. So, in episode 14, it's guys versus girls, but it doesn't really. It's basically guys versus girls. There are more guys, but it doesn't change anything, so it's an elimination. Izzy and Noah return, and I think the winner is Eva. Now, Noah has Izzy, and he can add Eva into the alliance. And Duncan would get Jeff, Lightning, and Noah's group to vote for Harold. And so I believe everyone would vote. Noah would taught everyone to vote for Lightning, who would generally be seen as the biggest threat. So I think they vote for Lightning. But Duncan's group would vote for Gwen, who would be the best in her alliance. Harold and Bridget vote Duncan, with Noah and Izzy, so that's 4 on Duncan, 4 on Gwen. Sadie would also vote Duncan. And Izzy would side with them to get rid of Gwen. Noah votes Gwen. Because he talks to Duncan how they should work together to get out as former teammates. And there's only Gwen, Trent, and Cody. And Izzy's also his former teammate. And I think everyone agrees who sees Izzy as generally the biggest threat. Even assuming that aside, they would see that Lightning. Noah would see Lightning very easy to manipulate, and I think he'd rather get rid of Izzy. Noah and Izzy are in alliance with Duncan. So these six vote Cody. And Noah says he's on their side, so they vote for Lightning, and I think they vote. Well, I think here these six vote Gwen. And Noah goes to Harold and talks about makes a deal with him the next time they go to elimination. He'll help Harold get rid of Duncan. So Gwen's out. And I think everyone votes for Lightning, who's the biggest threat's not immune, so Lightning's out. Episode 16, Eva wins immunity. And I think these five would vote Cody, Bridget, Harold, Cody and Trent vote Duncan, and Sadie also votes Duncan. 17, hide and be sneaky. Eva races to the end, and Noah has the best hiding spot. They both have immunity. So Jeff's with these guys. And I think Harold, he votes Jeff. I think Sadie is with Noah. So these five vote Cody. These three vote Jeff. So that's 4 Jeff. And Bridget votes. So she's with Noah at this point. They're all together. And I think Sadie, Bridget, so basically they all vote Izzy, who's generally seen as the biggest threat that's not immune, so that Izzy's out. Episode 18, the bike race. I think Noah wipes out. I think Sadie wipes out Gwen for the second round. So Bridget, Jeff would crash into Cody. I think Eva would definitely cross Howard as a mad biking skills and Trent. And Bridget would cross after them, so do the unfair ruling. I think Bridget's out. Episode 19, Silkline Screamer. Sadie gets the worst death. I think Noah wins the challenge and Gwen, but doesn't change anything. Episode 20, I think the winner of the challenge would be Gwen. Now, despite the fact Gwen and Cody are a trio, Noah would talk to Harold, Jeff, and Eva, and despite Harold and Jeff's differences, I think they would both make a temporary truce, and I think they would agree to work together to get rid of Gwen, who's generally the biggest threat in our alliance. And I think there's one episode later for Jeff. I think there's no chance, but I think at this point in the season, I think they're going to side with Gwen. And Noah goes to Eva and talks about how they need to get rid of Gwen here. And although they would want to get Eva out, so these three vote Eva, these three vote Gwen. Jeff is actually friends with Eva, so I do think he votes Gwen. These three vote Jeff. But Harold is the swing vote. I do think Harold would take Noah's words into wisdom and be the honourable warrior he is. I think he does do the forgiving thing and gets rid of Gwen. Episode 21 is Jeff and Trent, Eva, Cody, Noah, Harold, Jeff, Trent, Noah, Cody, Eva. The eating challenge, I think it's Noah and Trent. The race to Boney Island is Eva and Cody. Remember, the order is Noah and Trent. Now they think it's popularity contest at this point. They're not looking at strength. So Jeff votes Eva, and I think Jeff still goes. And they realize Eva's too powerful to keep into the game, so I think they vote off Eva and Noah. They all vote for Jeff, who's more popular. Episode 22 is now Trent because you can see both like Trent. Episode 23 is an animation. Episode 24 is guys versus girls. But now so Harold and Eva versus Noah and Cody. I think the winner of the challenge is the East Coast Alliance of the challenge would be Noah. Dragon Bros is just the East Coast Alliance. Now, I think Noah and Eva would win because Noah is really smart, so I feel like him and Eva would get to the end. So between Cody and Harold, I think Chef chooses to get rid of Harold. S25 is Dare After Dare, and Eva definitely wins. So between Noah and Cody, I think Noah and Eva tag team Cody. So Noah and Eva are in the finale, and most people would side with Noah, although Gwen would support Eva, Duncan, Heather, and Lightning. So basically the films. So this is my strategy is going to go on, and this is the complete timeline for the Drama Island side. And now we go straight into Drama Revenge of the Island. Let's go. So episode 1. Scott still throws challenges, and if anything, it makes Scott a lot easier to throw challenges because Tyler's here. And Tyler's pretty much a screw up, so I think Scott would be pretty happy to have him off this team. But there's still no reason for Stacy to get voted off like Noble. Again, Tyler does pretty terrible here, but there's no reason for Dakota to go home. Scott sabotages B. And Brooke gets swapped to the rats. In the Scavenger Hunt episode, Tyler would win with Sam. And I feel like Tyler would also like Scott and would say that Scott fires him as an actual friend and teammate. Episode 5, I think Brick would also start to befriend Tyler. And the two would have a friendly-ish rivalry, with them asking who should be team captain. And Tyler suggests we should add Scott into this little challenge because Scott is his actual friend, and Scott's been helping him throughout on the way. And Scott says he insists that Tyler does it for him. We see a confessional of Scott being annoyed at this, but he's glad that he has Tyler's trust. So he needs to pin the new guy on Brick to break that alliance. I think Tyler wins, and Brick lets Tyler become team captain. Tyler doesn't see it as a big deal as Joe. I think Brick goes in the suit and Tyler pumps. Joe goes in the suit and Mike still pumps. I think they win, and then I think Scott still throws the challenge. Scott frames items on Dawn. Tyler mightn't vote for Dawn because Dawn is their teammate and he didn't like Dawn, but I don't think it changed anything of Scott still sabotaging Dawn. Episode 6, Runaway Model. So, Sam's brain's still on to mush, and I think the rats lose the challenge, so Sam goes like the original. Because Scott would want to keep Tyler on side, and Tyler likes Brick, so I think he'd vote for Sam. Scott and Joe swap teams because that would still happen, and there we go. Episode 7. Joe would be very bossy with Tyler, and Brick would stand up to him, and Tyler would congratulate Joe on the team, and Joe says she's team captain now. In Mine's a Terrible Thing, I think Tyler would try to help Brick down, but Brick is too scared, and Joe and Tyler have to leave him, which Tyler refuses, and Joe just goes by herself, but Tyler's not able by himself. I think Brick still uses his boot, and Scott's still sabotaging his own team. I think Brick still goes back to save the others, so he wins the challenge. Loses the challenge here. Now, Joe, these two over each other, and I think Tyler would side with Brick to vote Joe off because Joe's been very bossy. On top of the fact she's been quite mean in this episode. So she has been civil to Tyler and somewhat nice to him. I think Tyler's a lot closer to Brick, so he's obviously going to vote for Joe. And Anne-Maria still quits after this challenge. In episode 8, Dakota still returns as a player. You have Dakota. No, we don't have, not on this one. Dakota's always still in the back as a player. And because the rats have to go. So the first part of the challenge, Tyler and Brick win the challenge. I think the rats still win because Scott throwing on top of the fact Brick would have the navigational skills makes me think that the rats win this challenge. Everyone votes for Scott. Scott uses his idol and gets rid of Dakota Zoid. So now we're at the merge. And basically, the only difference here is we have Brick instead of Joe. In episode 9, I think Tyler and Brick get caught in the cages, and Scott still blackmails Mike for the entire episode. And because Scott can't blackmail over something he's not keeping a secret, I think Mike gets voted off here. Episode 10, I think Tyler Brick would get annoyed at Scott for sabotaging Mike. But Scott points out that he didn't sabotage Mike. Mike said it was okay, and he wanted Mike to let him pull him along, and he apologizes for that. He won't do that again. He wasn't sabotaging someone else. Tyler says he's forgiven that. Tyler would be in a difficult position to try and calm down both Scott and Brick. And we see a confession of Scott wanting to get Brick out. As a result, I think Scott still gets sabotaged by Zoe, and Tyler and Brick replace Joe and Lightning. So Tyler gets the plane, and Brick gets the balloon. And I think Tyler's fighting Heather with the briefcase. And I think Brick would win this challenge because Brick has military training, so I think he'd do very well here. Now, Brick would vote for Scott, with Cameron and Zoe also voting for Scott. While Tyler would get Scott to vote for Well, Tyler votes for Cameron, and votes Zoe. Scott would also vote Zoe, and these two vote Scott. Now, I think Brick, even though he's friends with Tyler, and he knows Tyler likes Scott, I think he would agree that he has to get rid of Scott, who's the troop out of the line. And I think he would get rid of Scott here. Which really knows Scott, but there's not a lot I can do. Episode 11 is basically the Ebuking Worry. I think Brick wins first part of the challenge, and then it's a race to the end. So Brick wins the challenge. Now Tyler and Brick vote for Cameron, and Cameron Zoe vote for Tyler. And I think Cameron easily loses because Tyler's a lot stronger. On top of the fact Tyler would definitely beat Cameron just by any tiebreaker. So Cameron's out. Episode 12 is basically where we have the fire plot episode. So Brick and Tyler are traveling together, and Zoe's off by herself. Now Zoe is still commando, and with no Cameron, there's no reason for her to go back. But I believe Brick and Tyler would win the challenge. I believe that Brick would win this challenge because Brick would get attacked by the fire plot, and Zoe would go back to save him. And Tyler, I think between Brick and Tyler and Zoe, I definitely think Brick would make it first because he's definitely the fastest. And he goes through the 5 foot morning jog, keeps up with Joe, so I think he wins the challenge. And obviously he's getting rid of Zoe because he's actual friends with Tyler and the BFFLs. So I think Brick and Tyler would actually help each other out in the end. So Brick and Tyler in the finale. And this estimation ratings will go. If Tyler and the Lightning swap seasons. Lightning. Yeah, lightning. There you go. So I thought it was an interesting one. And this mission is gonna go. And yeah, peace for all.